2026 Los Angeles Rams might be the most loaded team in football. They have the reigning MVP, two nightmare receivers, a rebuilt secondary, and Myles Garrett hunting quarterbacks off the edge. But this team was 6 yards from reaching the Super Bowl last season and had to watch from home as Seattle dismantled New England in the big game. So GM Les Snead torched the future, traded away a mountain of draft capital, and left the door open for Aaron Donald to return. Now the Rams look terrifying on paper, but are they actually the best team in the NFL, or just the league's most expensive buzzer shot at another championship? To find the answer, we're breaking down the firepower, the flaws, and the all-in gamble behind the 2026 Los Angeles Rams.
The Los Angeles Rams are the favorites to win the Super Bowl championship.
Stafford looking, floats one, Williams wide open, and he scores! Touchdown, Rams!
Back in January, the Rams barreled in the Soldier Field, one win away from the NFC Championship game. They also walk into the kind of weather that can turn a polished, warm-weather offense into a disaster with a lit fuse. The Rams have spent 2025 overwhelming defenses with Matthew Stafford, Puka Nacua, Davante Adams, and one of the most productive attacks in football. Against Chicago, none of that came easily. The Bears dragged them into an ugly, physical overtime game that Los Angeles survived 20-17. It was the kind of gritty win that made the Rams look championship ready. They dawned on the road, endured the cold, survived a late Chicago rally, and advanced despite playing well below their offensive ceiling. 7 days later, that resilience landed them in Seattle with a trip to the Super Bowl on the line. This time, Stafford and the offense delivered. The Rams moved the ball, created explosive plays, and put themselves in a position to win late. But the mistakes that Chicago failed to punish followed the Rams north. Special teams gave Seattle free points, LA's defense struggled near the goal line, and when the Rams reached the Seattle 6-yard line with a chance to take the lead, the drive ended without a touchdown. Seattle won 31-27 and eventually won the Super Bowl. We're not going to get into that controversy here, but that loss became the defining contradiction of the Rams season. Against Chicago, the rest of the team carried an offense that never found its rhythm. Against Seattle, the offense produced enough to reach the Super Bowl, and the rest of the team failed to do the job. In the span of 1 week, Los Angeles proved it was good enough to beat anyone, but it also exposed every weakness, keeping it from being the NFL's best team. GM Les Snead spent the offseason attacking those weaknesses with the subtlety of a wrecking ball. And if you're wondering about Aaron Donald, we'll get to that in a bit, because that situation is more complicated than him simply saying, "I'm back." So cue the cheerleaders, hit the like and subscribe when we figured out just how good the Los Angeles Rams are going to be in 2026.
Here we go, here we go, here we go!
The Rams entered the 2026 offseason with the core of a championship roster already intact. Matthew Stafford, Puka Nacua, Davante Adams, and Kyren Williams are all back. Between Sean McVay still has an offense capable of turning one defense mistake into 6 points on any given down. Stafford enters the season as the reigning MVP at the unquestioned center of everything Los Angeles wants to accomplish. He still has the arm to attack every blade of grass, and after watching him carve through Seattle in the NFC Championship game, nobody can blame the Rams' playoff exit on their quarterback. But Stafford's 38 years old, and at that age, the drop-off rarely sends a courtesy email before arriving. Every hit matters, and every injury lasts longer, so every breakdown in protection puts the entire championship plan in danger. That makes Puka Nacua more important than ever.
On fourth down, Stafford, end zone, Nacua, touchdown! What a catch!
Nacua is the engine of McVay's passing game because he can line up anywhere, win through contact, and turn routine completions into violent problems for the secondary. Davante Adams brings a different kind of pressure because he's still one of football's cleanest route runners and most dangerous red zone receivers. Defenses can devote extra attention to Puka or Adams, but not both. And those two monsters are only the beginning of the problem. Colby Parkinson emerged as one of Stafford's most reliable scoring options last season, catching 8 touchdowns after entering the year with only 5 across the first 5 NFL seasons. At 6'7", Parkinson gives Stafford an enormous target in the middle of the field and near the goal line. He may not produce the yardage totals of Puka or Adams, but 8 touchdowns makes him impossible to treat like a harmless safety valve anymore. Then there's Jordan Whittington, the potential unsung engine of the entire operation. Whittington enters his 3rd season fighting for the 3rd receiver role, although his real value goes well beyond where his name appears on the depth chart. He's caught 40 of his first 53 NFL targets, giving him an insane efficiency rate above 75%. That's better than Puka and Davante. Whittington also has the size, physicality, and running back experience to handle the dirty work McVay demands from his receivers. He can block from the slot, move around the formation, contribute from the backfield, and help disguise whether the Rams are preparing to run or throw before the snap.
You know, he's got a great game day demeanor. You could feel that from the very first game.
That flexibility matters because Los Angeles won't live exclusively in heavy personnel. When the Rams spread the field with 3 receivers, Whittington can become the connective tissue between the stars. He doesn't need 15 targets. He needs to block, keep the offense on schedule, and punish defenses when all the attention drifts towards Nacua and Adam. The running game keeps the entire structure balanced. Kyren Williams gives Los Angeles a reliable back who understands the blocking scheme, finishes runs, and contributes in the passing game. Blake Corum provides enough depth to prevent every difficult carry from landing on Williams' shoulders. The concern sits in front of Stafford. Alaric Jackson remains the starting left tackle, but his unresolved off-field situation could lead to a 6-game suspension. That possibility leaves the Rams exposed at one position where instability can wreck the entire offense. Los Angeles has backup options, but none of them make protecting Stafford feel routine. That's the bargain at the center of this offense. The Rams have 2 superstar receivers, a tight end who scored 8 times, an efficient hybrid weapon fighting for a larger role, and a running game defenses can't ignore. But their entire season still depends on keeping a 38-year-old quarterback upright long enough to use all of it.
Even with his age and the salt and pepper in his beard, I believe this is the best version of Matt Stafford we have ever seen.
The Rams left Seattle knowing exactly where the roster failed them, so Les Snead responded by attacking the secondary first. LA traded for Trent McDuffie, sending Kansas City the 29th pick in the 2026 draft, 2 additional selections that year, and a 3rd rounder in 2027. Then the Rams handed McDuffie a 4-year extension through 2030. That is a massive investment for a quarterback, but it gives DC Chris Shula the kind of movable piece this defense has lacked since Jalen Ramsey left town. Then the Rams doubled down by signing McDuffie's former Kansas City teammate Jalen Watson. Watson gives Los Angeles a longer and more physical core who can handle big receivers near the boundary, while McDuffie deals with the quick route runners who create separation underneath. The reunion also gives the Rams 2 corners who already understand how to communicate and adjust together when an offense begins moving pieces before the snap. And they're going to need that against Seattle's insane collection of pass catchers and Kyle Shanahan's offensive sorcery. The secondary overhaul would have qualified as an aggressive offseason by itself, but Snead kept going. In June, he acquired Myles Garrett from Cleveland, and the price was enormous. Jared Verse went to the Browns along with 1st, 2nd, and 3rd round draft picks spread across the next 3 years. Verse was young, productive, and already developing into one of the faces of the defense. Garrett is still the reigning Defensive Player of the Year, the most destructive edge rusher in football, and that's the calculation. The Rams surrendered a decade of potential production from Verse for the guarantee of what Garrett can provide right now. And right now is the only timeline this organization seems interested in discussing. Garrett immediately becomes the player every opposing protection has to find before the ball is snapped. So sliding help towards him creates opportunities for Byron Young on the opposite edge and opens room for Kobe Turner, Braden Fisk inside. Garrett changes the math for all of them. Offensive lines can double him, but it can't double everybody, and that's what makes his defense dangerous.
The addition of Myles Garrett alone, though, says what for the Rams in terms of being the favorite from the NFC to get to that Super Bowl.
That said, the Rams burned through enough draft capital to make one thing painfully clear. Los Angeles is done waiting for its young defense to become championship ready. The Rams bought the finished version, and they might not be done spending yet. But then again, nothing is guaranteed in the NFL. The Rams have enough star power to make roster rankings feel almost pointless right now. They also have enough unresolved problems to turn the best team on paper into a January cautionary tale. Special teams sit at the top of that list. LA fired Chase Blackburn during the 2025 season after repeated mistakes became impossible to excuse. Bubba Ventrone inherits the repair job and brings 11 years of special teams experience, along with the kind of hard-edged personality Sean McVay wants attached to that unit. But the work is a long way from finished.
Try to poke a hole in it. Is there anything that you would look at on this team and say, hey, wait, slow down. There are some potential shortcomings for this team before you just put them in the Super Bowl in LA.
Los Angeles entered training camp without a settled punt returner. Xavier Smith is getting opportunities, and Kyren Williams remains an option, but Ventrone is also adjusting Ethan Evans' mechanics and searching for ways to turn the punting game into a natural weapon instead of something Rams fans watch through their fingers. The second concern is depth. The Rams have invested heavily in the top of the roster. Stafford, Adams, Garrett, McDuffie, Nakua, Williams, and the rest of the core give them championship-level talent at the positions that matter most. The Garrett trade also removed Jared Verse and stripped away premium draft picks in 3 consecutive years. That decision makes sense when everyone is healthy. It becomes terrifying the second one of those stars goes down. The revamped secondary still has to develop chemistry, and Garrett has to adjust to a new system, while the offensive line has to protect the 38-year-old quarterback through one of the nastiest schedules in football. The Rams open the season against San Francisco in Australia, then get to enjoy an early 3-game stretch against Denver, Philly, and Buffalo. We'll wish them luck and leave it at that, because we're all here to see the late season matchups with Seattle anyway. The Rams have the talent to beat anyone. They also have very little margin for injuries, sloppy special teams, or a rebuilt defense that needs half the season to figure itself out. Of course, all this changes if 99 decides to come back and play alongside Myles Garrett.
But the addition of a guy like Aaron Donald on an already stacked team is just unbelievable.
Aaron Donald has been training and testing whether he wants to put his body through another NFL season, while Sean McVay and the Rams have made it clear that the door is wide open. The biggest question may be when. An early return would give Donald the entire season to work beside Garrett, but LA would have to create enough cap space to pay for a full season commitment. A later return would be much easier to finance. If Donald waits until the middle of the season, his salary could be prorated across the remaining games. That means the Rams could bring him back for the stretch run without carrying the full financial weight of the contract for Week 1. That would also allow Donald to avoid training camp and the early season grind before joining a contender preparing for the playoffs. The Rams already have one of the NFL's most talented rosters. Aaron Donald returning at any point would make them a nightmare. Aaron Donald returning fresh for the final months can make this entire championship run borderline unfair. Seattle says, bring it on. We do not care.
Let's go make a play, brother. Here we go.
So are the Rams the best team in the NFL? On paper, they have the strongest case. The offense is loaded, the defense has been rebuilt, and Aaron Donald could still push the roster over the top. Now they have to prove it. Let us know where you rank the Rams and subscribe to Snapcap for more NFL breakdowns, and we'll see you in the next one.